Welcome back to the Gary Sutton Show on WSBA. And for those who are waiting for Dr. Dick Padley to be on this morning at 9:55 with us. With us is a guy I've known over the years as, well, he was actually kind of a student in high school, a former, what should I say, unofficial assistant basketball coach when I started many, many moons ago, but now he's the head football coach at the University of Maryland. We're talking about Randy Edsall. Good morning, Randy. How are you?
I'm doing good, Gary.
Yeah, people didn't know that your whole coaching career started as my unofficial 7th and 8th grade assistant when you came down and tried to give me some knowledge back in, the early 1970s, like 74, 75, something like that?
Yeah, that's probably exactly right. That's where it all started.
Yeah, exactly right. I'm sure that's on the resume somewhere. Anyway, great to have you on this morning. You guys are heading into the Big Ten this year, and of course, Northwestern's in the Big Ten right now. And Northwestern had an interesting case this week where they now have standing to go after this idea of having a players' union, which would essentially make them employees of the university. And you and I had a chat yesterday off the air, and I thought it was a really good one. And I wanted to get your views this morning on how you feel about it. You're a guy that coaches these kids right now. You also had the advantage of having played at the University of Syracuse and be part of this whole system. How do you look at this right now with these players wanting to essentially become employees of the university and have some rights that they don't have right now?
Well, I think, first of all, I just think that what's happened at Northwestern, this is part of the college experience for young men or women to be able to, speak up and have a voice in, what they believe in and learn how to, kind of advocate for themselves. And I think when you take a look at the Northwestern situation, it's one that's very, very intriguing and very interesting. And I do think that we should do more for the student athlete. And, as I looked at that situation that took place and what they did and how the ruling went down, I kind of reflected back to, my own career and said, they really got something here from the standpoint. I played at Syracuse from 76 to 80. When I played there, I was on a full scholarship, which included, room, board, books, tuition, and fees, just like it is nowadays. And we had a 10-game schedule. We were finished playing the week before Thanksgiving, so you had a chance to go home and be with your families at Thanksgiving. Then in the summertime, you didn't stay at campus like they do now. You had the opportunity to go home and, you worked out on your own. You got a job or whatever you did, and then you came back, in the fall and August like you do now. Over the years, and like I said, being in this for over close to 35 years now as a player and as a coach, how it's evolved we went from playing 10 games a year to 11 games a year, and then to 12 games a year, to conference championships, to the BCS. And with all those things that were added, the football student athlete still gets just room, board, books, tuition, and fees. And when you take a look at all the money that's generated, through football, I think with them having the ability to unionize, I think what's going to happen is the landscape of college athletics is going to change, and I think it's going to change for the better, because I really believe if the NCAA was proactive and they would have, at some point in time, made the scholarship to include the cost of attendance for what it costs to go to that particular institution, you wouldn't have had, the situation that arose with Northwestern that could arise with other private, institutions. So, I give the players at Northwestern a lot of credit for doing what they did, because things have increased, but nothing has increased for the student athlete.
There's something else involved here too, and you had mentioned when we talked before about stipends, which would be part of the preventative thing that you said might have kept us from getting to this point. But also, when you look at student athletes who are coming to school now, first of all, they're not necessarily being recruited as students yet, because that part of their career is over. It's not until they get there that you have to really worry totally about the student athlete. But more importantly, injuries, those kind of things that could be chronic later on. I mean, those are all things incurred while you're playing there. So kind of address a couple of those things and take those into consideration right here and tell me where you go with that.
Well, I think one of the things, and I really feel like Northwestern had a very legitimate case, and I read the comment of the young man who really was the impetus behind it all. And they asked him, why do you think Northwestern offered him a scholarship? And it was because of his, athletic ability to come there and play football. Well, just all you have to do, and I think, is take a look at the recruiting process that's taking place right now. The recruiting process is all about the athletic ability. It's not about what the kids are doing in the classroom. Because when we as coaches have the ability to verbally offer a young man or a young lady an athletic scholarship to come to that university, when they're being offered, when kids are in grades 8, grade 9, grade 10, you're making a decision that's solely based on athletic performance and what you think the athletic productivity can be for that person, because it's not being based on the academic record, of that young man or young lady, because if you're in 9th grade or 10th grade, you don't have enough information to look to say, are they admissible to your institution? So
you're being brought to their door by the wow factor of who they are, what they're doing. And then maybe later on during the other process, you find, okay, what kind of student are you? What kind of character you have? I know you're big on that. But that's once you get there and you're drawn there by the talent in the first place, right?
Exactly. And when you take a look, starting in 2016, that you have to have a 2.3 in your core courses, and you have to have 10-10, and there's a sliding scale that goes with it in order to be eligible. As a freshman, you got a system that's out of whack, and you got a system that is saying that these kids are really more, I would say, employees, because you're bringing them there because of the athletic side. You're not really bringing them there because of the academic side, because of some of the things that have been allowed to transpire, over the years. So that's why I think there's going to be big changes, coming, where you're going to see the student athletes probably, I think, because people don't want to call it pay for play type situation. And I don't know if they want to call it a stipend, but where I think the cost of attendance for that particular university where a young man or young lady goes to, that's going to be incorporated. And I do think there will be some changes from a recruiting standpoint, because it's really hard to me for the NCAA to stand up to some of these lawsuits that have come about based on when you're allowed to offer these kids when you don't even know what their academic record's going to be when they're in 8th, 9th, 10th grade. And, you're basing everything off of athletic ability. You're not basing it off of the academic side of it.
Is it fair to say today, and having had a daughter who went to Northwestern, I know what the costs are there, and she went there on a scholarship for field hockey and also basketball. But, when you look at it, would it be fair to say today that maybe the scholarship isn't really worth what you're giving the university when you go there? Am I off base by saying that?
I just think what has happened is times have changed, and I do think that the demands that are placed on these student athletes now to go to, these higher education institutions to play is more. So there's got to be something in that for them, because they're, like I said, when I was at school, I was getting the same thing in terms of the scholarship, what we got, but we weren't required to do all these things. Now you're playing more games. Okay. You're mostly required to be there, more than you were before, but there has not been anything that's helped to offset or do anything to compensate for, more time that's being put in than what's been, happening. And plus, there's been more money coming in, so you can't say that, there's not money there to be able to do that in terms of the TV contracts and all the things that, the money that's going to be made off the BCS, the money that's made off the NCAA basketball tournament, all those things. So something's got to have to to have to change.
You know, it's interesting. I was reading somewhere, I think it was in that transcript of what happened the other day with Northwestern, and they said, the one guy said, well, you know, we're here 60 hours a week. We work longer than most people who work full-time work, and we got to be here year-round for the most part. And that was one of the points you made yesterday with me off the air, that you're pretty much stuck there year-round. Not stuck there, but you're there year-round working at a job. So, you know, it and then the other idea is that, you know, you're looking at players' numbers being used out there, their pictures of themselves being used out there and all that, and you say, geez, wait a second. I'm part of an entertainment dollar here as well. So I think you made a great point. Times are changing, especially with all the visibility that we have out there and the use of these players for their particular, you know, how many people are wearing a guy's number, for example, when they come to one of your games, that kind of thing.
Right, and that's the thing. There are a lot of things, and I don't know if it's been done. I don't think it's been done with the intent in mind, but it's just the thing that's happened, the commercialization of everything, and you know, the model from the NCAA is getting to be more of a professional model than it is intercollegiate model, and that's where I think some things have to change or have to stop. You know, if they wanted to create, you know, like in baseball, you know, kids have the option to go from high school to the minor leagues. There's a minor league system set up.
Right.
In football, you don't really have that. So, and kids can't come out until after they've, you know, been in, graduated from high school for 3 years. But like I said, because of the amount of TV, the exposure, the money, all those things. And one thing, you brought up a good point, Gary, is that even though these kids are in college, some of them will get injuries that won't allow them to play, but could end up having lasting effects for years to come. But then again, there is no health care, you know, for those guys. That health care would have to come from, you know, when the employer where they got a job and staying on those things. So, you know, you're seeing what's happened in the NFL for those guys playing, but, you know, you will have some of those type cases, you know, from guys, you know, playing in college, because what we've done is we've made the season longer. You know, we're training, you know, year round, and it's just like the NFL. You know, the NFL, with the new collective bargaining agreement, from when the season's over until I think it's sometime in April, those guys can't really be around the facility working out, or they can't be doing anything with the coaches, so, or the strength people with those clubs. So I think, like I said, I think some things are going to happen, and I think they need to happen. And I think it's not only things that need to change for the current student-athletes who are on the campuses, but I think things have to change as well for prospective student-athletes, because one of the things is that we don't allow these kids to be kids and enjoy the high school process, and let the student-athlete part of it be just like the student part be admitted. Make them be admitted the same way. Universities aren't making decisions on the non-student athletes, you know, until, you know, their senior years, and they're not promising or doing any of those things. So it's, you know, everybody talks about the extra benefit. Well, technically, the prospective student athlete is getting an extra benefit, because people are telling them, and then some of these offers that go out, people get an offer, but from one school, well, another bunch of schools go and just offer because somebody else has offered, but they don't even know anything about the kid. They don't know his academics. They don't know what kind of kid he is or anything like that. And then what happens is these kids start to get all these offers and everything else. Now they get a big head. They're hard to deal with the coaches. It's not the kind of culture and environment that I think is conducive for young people to develop, you know, in the right way.
And I got in an argument with somebody the other day about this. They said, well, then they just come there. They don't have to worry about doing anything other than just working and then leaving and going to the NFL or whatever. I said, well, most of them aren't going to the NFL. I'm going to tell you that. And the other part is, I said, I know a coach, and I was talking to you about you for the moment. I said, who holds them to those high standards as far as being a student athlete? So that's still a big part of the equation. About a minute and a half left, Randy. Final thoughts.
Well, you know, the thing is, I take a look at it as this. I think what has to happen, it's got to get back to, why do you come to college? You come to college to develop. You have the ability to play a sport, and especially in my sport, 1.6% of any college, of somebody coming to college is going to have an opportunity to go to the NFL.
Right.
So, you know, that says it all right there. We got to get back to the values and the standards of really what it's all about. But also, I think it's what we've got to do is we've got to increase the scholarship. And to me, it's the cost of attendance that can do that because of what has transpired with the demands that we put on these student athletes, so they can have some money in their pockets, so they can end up getting it home and not have to worry about it. If we're going to continue to go where we want them to be here and do all the things that we're trying to do with them now, here at our universities.
Randy, really appreciate you taking the time this morning. Thank you so much, and I know you're in the middle of spring practice. Good luck with that. You've got, a scrimmage tonight, right?
Yeah, we got a scrimmage tonight down at North Point High School in Waldorf, Maryland, so it'll be fun, and it's supposed to be about 65, so we're finally getting some spring weather, and I can get my golf game so I can go out there and get some strokes and beat you.
All right. Okay, now that hurt. Randy, thanks so much. I appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon, okay?
All right, buddy.
Take care. Thank you.
Take care.